Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
What a pleasure to talk with Brad Mattis. He's the president of Life Issues Institute, a grassroots organization dedicated to pro-life education. He's also the host of a half-hour radio special that you can listen to. It's called The Faces of Roe. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we went live, Brad, first of all, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you both, Rick and Dan. It's nice to be with you.
Nice to have you. Before we went live, we started talking about the leak. If there's someone on the planet that hadn't heard about the leak, they haven't been paying attention.
The leak heard round the world, if you will.
My gracious, it's unbelievable. Of course, we're talking about the Supreme Court and the leak. Where do you want to start? Because there's just so much, and we do want to talk about the radio special. But I'm going to toss it to you. You just start talking.
Well, it's interesting that one of the things my whole adult life, I've not admired the Supreme Court because of Roe. But the one thing I admired them about was keeping things from leaking out. So this was just unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the document's been called authentic, based upon the radical activity of our opponents. I think it is just solidifying those pro-life justices. As a matter of fact, I'd like to quote Justice Clarence Thomas, I always get that mixed up, who was speaking in Atlanta this past weekend. And he said, "We can't be an institution that can be bullied into giving you just the outcomes you want."
Mm-hmm.
And Justice William Rehnquist, guys, is super paranoid about the Supreme Court being viewed as political. To him, that seems to be more important than the Constitution itself. So if one of these conservative justices were to peel off, that would make it so very political. So I think all of this extreme stuff, including the firebombing of a pregnancy center in Madison, Wisconsin this weekend, is just working against them.
Wow. And you and I, we were talking before we started, and you were saying you've been waiting for this day for so many years that is not actually here yet, but looks like it will be coming. Did you expect the amount of vitriol that has come with it?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I thought it might be a little worse, and it might get worse. It's far from over. But, this is one of Satan's most effective tools, and he's not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing evidence of that spiritual warfare. It's ironic that people would be so upset that babies are going to live.
Yeah.
It's just, when you look at the one side, life is good, death is bad. It's not hard to pick the one that has the most virtue. Mm-hmm. But we're going to see terrible things. On that pregnancy center in Madison, Wisconsin, that was firebombed, they spray painted on the side of the building, and I may not have this quote exactly right, "If abortions aren't safe, then neither are you." And
wow.
The firebomb did extensive damage to the center. We have to be prepared for physical attacks. Of course, the verbal attacks have been coming for years. Mm-hmm. I've been in this for 46 years, and my skin's pretty thick, so that's not hard to bounce off. But I'm worried about those who are in the thick of things, who may be in harm's way.
Yeah.
Brad Mattis here. He is the president of Life Issues Institute, and we're going to talk in just a minute about a half-hour radio special that he hosted, The Faces of Roe. It's really good. I actually listened to it this morning. You want to check that out in just a few. Women and men victimized by abortion. It's a really good piece to check out. I found some points because I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly what is going on. I'm not an expert, but from what I read this morning, that once let's say it does get overturned, then up to 26 states are expected to impose new limits on abortion if Roe and Casey are overturned. So can you help us just give us just the ins and outs, make it practical for us? Let's say that, and I'm not even sure when this would all take place. Is there a time frame when this would actually take place?
Yes, the time frame would be immediately. So, as a matter of fact, one state, I think it's my own in Florida, passed legislation ending abortion at 15 weeks, scheduled to take effect July 1st. That was all done with when the Supreme Court was expected to overturn Roe and uphold the Dobbs case the last day or two of June. So, yes, it's going to be fast and furious. Of course, state legislatures have been passing legislation on both sides,
Yeah.
Preparing for that day. But, there's a different count of how many states are going to end abortion and how many aren't. But our listeners need to understand that this is when the work really begins, because now we can get into the trenches on the battle lines in each state and have an effect on abortion. And that's where the grassroots pro-life movement really excels, guys. We have built a network state by state that your local elected officials, your state reps, your governor, they're much more accountable to the people than those far off in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And by our measurement, we think 21 states will totally or significantly ban abortion after the Supreme Court rules. Another 9, we believe, with legislation will be in that category. My state of Florida is one of those. So there's going to be millions of babies saved and their parents spared the emotional devastation that so often follows abortion. But we need everybody to be in prayer for those Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
And then for those of us on the battlefront lines that are working to save babies.
Yeah. And even if it's overturned by the Supreme Court, they're threatening in the Senate and the House at least to try to make it law that way. So like you said, the battle is definitely not over. Well, let's talk about the radio show, The Faces of Roe, Women and Men Victimized by Abortion. Talk about, obviously great timing on this radio show, but talk about some of the stories you heard and what you want folks to get out of this.
Well, I gave it that title because I wanted to put faces on the issue of abortion and share the stories of some of those who have been devastated by late-term abortion, particularly as we're leading up to the Dobbs case and how the Dobbs case ends abortion after 15 weeks. So late-term abortions would be banned. A lot of the aborted baby body part sale industry would be stymied because they couldn't sell body parts of babies that old. And so I interviewed 2 people, a mother and a father, who both were victimized by late-term abortion, and their stories are riveting. But another point, guys, that we need to make is that women who don't have access to abortion are not going to be abandoned, because the pro-lifers have been building a network, a safety net, state by state, so that women have the resources they need to choose life. They can be empowered and equipped to say yes to life and no to abortion. And I highlighted that by interviewing a young woman who is so passionate about helping women. And she's part of an organization called Her Plan. And they are building a safety net state by state that is so incredibly thorough. It provides resources during pregnancy, through birth, and up to 2 years after birth. And we're talking about comprehensive stuff like legal support, financial help for housing or additional schooling. The pro-life movement is getting a bad rap because we have been working for years to assist women, and it's gotten more and more comprehensive as we go. So those are the key messages that, and then there was one more. I interviewed a woman, physician, who is a former late-term abortionist herself. And she tells us what happens behind the closed doors of those abortion facilities. And the fact that 40 to 50% of late-term aborted babies actually survive the procedure. And then the abortionist is faced with what they call the dreaded complication.
Yeah. I was, when I heard that, I was like, I didn't know. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's unbelievable. You got to check this out. It's the Faces of Roe, and you can hear it at lifeissues.org. It's right there. It'll be right there. You can just pop it in, and I mean, hit the on button. There it is. Really good stuff. Brad, thank you so much for your time. We'd love to catch up with you. I guess we're going to take this day by day, week by week, and see what goes on. I know you're a busy camper, but we'd like to revisit with you after all is said and done. And then from there, where do we go? We need all the help we can get. We definitely need folks to check out the radio show. It's a half-hour radio special with Brad Mattis. He's the host, and the folks there at Life Issues Institute. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.